Before skyscrapers pierced the skyline, before lights danced in the Las Vegas night, there was a river, a wild, untamed force of nature that flooded farmlands in the spring and vanished into cracked desert earth by midsummer. It was unforgiving. It swallowed crops, drowned hopes, and left entire valleys scorched and barren. But in 1931, a group of desperate men, bankers turned laborers, farmers turned builders, dared to confront this chaotic beast. Dangling on ropes high above a canyon floor, jackhammers in hand, they worked for just 50 cents an hour during America's darkest hour. What they built wasn't just a dam. It was a miracle in concrete, a towering monument that would birth entire cities, tame a wild river, and electrify the future. This is the untold, unforgettable story of the Hoover Dam. The Colorado River once roared with no regard for the people who lived beside it. In 1905, its raw power overwhelmed man-made irrigation canals in California's Imperial Valley. For 16 months, the water poured unchecked into the desert, turning farmland into swampland and creating an accidental inland sea, the Salton Sea. 2 years, $10 million. That's what it took just to force the river back into its banks. And yet, when the sun blazed in midsummer, this very river would dry into a pitiful trickle, leaving farmers praying for rain that never came. Nature was unpredictable, uncontrollable, unforgiving. But one man believed it didn't have to be that way. Herbert Hoover, engineer, idealist, and eventually U.S. president, saw a different future. While serving as Secretary of Commerce, he locked representatives from 7 feuding states in a room. The message was simple: no one leaves until there's an agreement. They emerged with the 1922 Colorado River Compact, dividing the river between upper and lower basin states. It was the first step in a grand plan, the Boulder Canyon Project. Then, in 1929, the stock market collapsed. Jobs vanished. Banks closed. Breadlines grew. Suddenly, the plan to build a dam wasn't just about water or power. It was about survival. To build the world's largest dam, engineers had to first do the impossible: divert an entire river around their construction site. In 1931, thousands of men arrived in the Nevada desert. They began carving 4 colossal tunnels, each 56 feet wide and nearly a mile long, through the solid rock of Black Canyon. These tunnels would become the river's temporary path. Inside it was hell. Temperatures soared to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. The air was thick with silica dust and carbon monoxide. Many workers didn't know it, but every breath was a step closer to lung disease or death. They were known as sandhogs, men who drilled, blasted, and clawed through the earth with little more than muscle and sheer will. At the helm of this brutal operation was Frank "Hurry Up" Crow, a relentless, no-nonsense dam builder who believed in seeing every job with his own eyes. Spotted at 2 a.m. with a flashlight, he'd prowl the site in the dead of night. As one worker put it, Crow didn't want to hear reports. He wanted to see them. His greatest invention? The jumbo drill. A rolling platform carrying 30 pneumatic drills that could attack the rock wall in synchronized fury, accelerating tunnel excavation to record speed. By November 1932, the unimaginable had happened. The mighty Colorado River now flowed through man-made tubes. The riverbed, for the first time in thousands of years, lay dry. Now began the next Herculean task: building the dam itself. The concrete needed would be enough to pave a road from San Francisco to New York. But there was a problem. If poured as a single block, the dam's concrete would take 125 years to cool. It would crack, buckle, and fail. So, engineers devised a solution. Interlocking columns poured in 5-foot blocks, cooled by a vast network of pipes, nearly 600 miles of them, circulating chilled water to remove the heat. Above, 9 towering cableways stretched across the canyon, carrying 18-ton buckets of concrete like clockwork from mixing plant to mold. But even more daring were the men known as high scalers. Suspended hundreds of feet in the air, they used jackhammers and dynamite to shear away loose rock from the canyon walls. They became legends. One Lewis one-rope Fagan swung between cliffs like a human trapeze, carrying coworkers like passengers on a carnival ride. It was here that the hard hat became a staple of American construction, born out of bloody necessity as falling rocks claimed too many lives. The workers, over 21,000 in total, came from every state. They were chasing one thing, a paycheck. At first, they lived in squalid shanty towns like Ragtown, where the wind painted everything in dust and hope was a luxury. Temperatures hit 120 degrees Fahrenheit in summer. Water was scarce. Sanitation was non-existent. Still, 50 cents an hour was a godsend when millions back home stood in soup lines. Things improved in 1932 with the creation of Boulder City, a government-built community where workers could live in dignity. $1.50 a day bought 3 full meals at the mess hall. Gambling and alcohol were banned, enforced by federal administrator Sims Ely, a man whose rules were ironclad. One dramatic moment etched into history involved high scaler Oliver Cowan. When an engineer fell from the canyon rim, Cowan caught him in midair, saving his life in a stunt that earned a Carnegie Hero Medal nomination. Not all stories had happy endings. The first man to die was J.G. Tierney, a surveyor who drowned in 1922. His son, Patrick, was the last to perish, falling from the dam in 1935. Both father and son died on December 20th, exactly 13 years apart. Officially, 96 men died. But the real toll, counting those lost to heat stroke, gas exposure, and lung disease, was far higher. By 1936, the river was finally chained. Lake Mead rose behind the curved wall, a man-made sea in the desert, the largest reservoir in the world. President Franklin D. Roosevelt visited in 1935 to dedicate the dam. Standing before 10,000 people, he declared, "I came. I saw. I was conquered." He famously called it Boulder Dam, never once crediting Herbert Hoover. Only in 1947 did President Truman restore the true name, Hoover Dam. Electricity began flowing in 1937. The turbines, massive steel giants, generated more power than any plant in the world at the time. Las Vegas, Phoenix, Los Angeles, all rose from the desert, fueled by this silent giant. Water from Lake Mead transformed millions of acres into farmland. The inscription left behind says it best: "They died to make the desert bloom." During World War II, the dam powered aircraft factories, aluminum plants, and the magnesium facility that supplied a quarter of the metal for Allied warplanes. Architect Gordon Kaufman gave the dam elegance with Art Deco features. Sculptor Oscar Hansen added monumental bronze figures, the winged figures of the Republic, guarding the dam like sentinels of sacrifice. In the plaza beneath their feet lies a celestial map, etched in terrazzo, showing the exact position of the stars on the day the dam was dedicated. And no place was transformed more than Las Vegas. A sleepy railroad town of 5,000 grew into a glowing city of neon, casinos, and spectacle, powered by Hoover Dam's boundless energy. Today, Hoover Dam still powers over 500,000 homes. But Lake Mead has shrunk, revealing chalky bathtub rings on its walls. The Colorado River Compact promised more water than nature can now deliver. Climate change and population growth have raised urgent questions. Can the Southwest continue to thrive as it has? Perhaps. But the dam itself still stands, 726 feet tall, carved into the canyon like a monument to human defiance. Not built by machines or robots, but by human hands, by men dangling on ropes, by laborers who swung pickaxes in the dark, by Americans who refused to surrender. They weren't superhuman. They were simply determined. And in their determination, they built not just a dam, they built a legacy.